So this is my Johnson bandsaw. I have a power hacksaw, as some of you may know. I picked this up from a metal dealer, and it needs some restore work. It did work when it pulled out, but there are cracks in the lines. The pump needs to be worked on. All in all, though, it's in pretty good condition. For me, though, given the shop space, I need to know that I can move it around. And so for me, I'm gonna put those wheels on it, and that's why we hauled it out earlier. You may have seen that short. So Hugh Johnson bandsaw, what I'm about to do is I'm going to do as much as I can to remove the weight and disassemble this stuff. I'm going to store it and then pick away at it over the next few months, probably winter-wise. It will not suffer the same fate as the forever project of the grinder. I'll probably work on that too. But anyway, so I'm going to start disassembling it bit by bit here during the heat wave. I'm just going to get it done in the morning, not bother touching it in the afternoon. So like we have one thing that's complete there, and then I don't even know what that is, but it's not original. All right, so I'm going to start by removing the pump, which obviously needs a new hose. So the base and stuff you can see from the other fabricated chip droppings is off right now, so that's already been taken off. But yeah, I'm going to start removing the hoses from here. We'll keep it just to make a similar length. So that'll be the easy spot. Remove the hose from there, remove that, and then along with the electrical, and get all of that stuff out of the way. So over here on the pump, whoever made this did a pretty sweet job of it actually. That's just a piece of old 1/2-inch copper pipe, like plumbing, and then they made a great new valve for it. So I'm going to keep that assembly because it's probably quite useful, and it's obviously demonstrated itself. So I'm going to go ahead and just remove that whole assembly and keep it all together. So just that single bolt right there. Well, since it was already super cracked and cut anyway, I figured I'd just go through and cut it. Even though I just said we're gonna try to keep it, measure its length afterwards, but we'll just keep both halves. So again, from here, just cut that, and I was gonna pull everything through. So it was threaded through this little jobby here, and then back into the pump. Right, and the underside, this is how everything's been attached. I guess that's a sliding port maybe. It's pretty cool. So another bolt come on down on this side, and then we'll pull the cable through. Nice lead screw up there and everything. Okay, so undo most of those, and then we should be able to remove the electrical. Steel braided line is running all the way through on the inside of the casting where it should be, so it's up and down. All right, and that other fastener was what was holding those breakers in together. I'll probably improve on that. So one less thing holding that on. Here's a good view of the lines for my future reference, and I'll just pop this thing off. All right, there we go. That's out now. It was locked using the screw on the side, as you remember, so keep that in mind for future use. Now the plan is to just feed that all the way through. Already getting grease on the phone, not sure how that happens, but anyway, here we go. So that's the threaded through hole, so to speak, or the hole that you thread something through there with. Jesus, it's the hole that you put the wire through. Anyway, that hung up a little bit, so I'm going to pull that back now that it's finally released, and we'll call this part done. All right, now for the last section, the electrical, got to take off the start stop switch. So I'm just going to remove that whole panel. You can see it connected to the frame there by removing those 2 bolts here. Okay, put that off. That's available, and I don't know what that used to be before. I presume that was the old mechanical switch. we'll leave that there. Okay, so now the electrical's off. You can already see some repair damage there from some point in its life, but I'm sure there'll be more. Anyway, I'm gonna start taking off some of these covers here because they all have to get repainted and everything like that. So all these little fasteners, they're probably going to vary depending on what kind of saw you have, because it seems like most of these fasteners have been replaced at some point. But that's the next easy piece to take off. Here's the inside. Mine were all 11 millimeter. Pretty stout. Pretty stout. Okay, so that's a tensioner. Good to know. And that's your return weight balancing stuff. Ballast, I suppose. Or this assembly. Anyway, alright, this part now. Not overly majestic there. Huh. What's that for? Alright, so now what I'm doing is just letting the blade tension off so I can just yoink the blade out. Don't have to worry about that. Might as well just take this off at the same time. Mod of the day right here. Whoever did this is smart. That wing nut right on top of it, much nicer. Much nicer. So that will remove the interior blade guard. And I'll be able to pop the blade off a little bit easier. Alright, there goes the rear blade guard. I'll put that with the rest of the stuff that needs to get cleaned up. Alright, now I got to do the same thing for the rear blade guard, which also has that wing nut welded on. Alright, with that, the band is off. Can access things a little bit less sketchily now, but it should be much easier here on out. Okay, have the band off now. So the next step is to, what I'd like to do is, if at all possible, keep the top assembly here and use the gantry to lift it off or whatnot. Though I know it's got to be fully restored, because then I can move the bottom piece around. And in order to do that, I need to remove the hydraulics, or rather I need to decouple the hydraulic, and then the spring, and then all that top part off. So I think next is going to be the hydraulic decoupling. Okay, here's the spring set up. Now that that's off, that bolt was off on the hydraulic piston, so it looks like we go pretty much all the way to the bottom, if not the exact bottom. And that's our tension point. So if I'm able to lift this up further, which I will be because that's off now, I should be able to get quite a bit of release, and then I might even be able to just move that out of there. Alright, there's my balance point. I'm going to keep it connected there. Now I'm going to go underneath and start removing the tension off the spring at the bottom. Okay, last piece, at least for the morning puzzle here before it gets too hot. I'm going to take out the pivot point now. So on my side, this was a 9/16, so we got some rust in there. So we'll hit it with some penetrating oil, brush it out, because we're gonna have to tap that out, or we're gonna have to thread that with a slide hammer and knock it out. All right, same deal here. So I'm just gonna start letting oil soak into that and brush out the cavity. And that's probably where I'll call it for the morning here. It's starting to get too hot. And it looks like it was a good thing I didn't just start smashing that. We've got a guide here, like a keyed guide that I'll have to handle before we do that. That would have broken for sure. All right, brush it off later and take a look at what we got, and we'll pop the top section off. All right, so we're back out here next day. It's not even 9 a.m. and we're high 20s, so another one of those days. So this is the keyed system, and it looks like there are some shims underneath this on this Model J, at least how it's done. So I'm going to get one of my low profile in there and just loosen that just enough to pop both those keys out. and then tighten it back down. Then I'm going to need the engine crane or the gantry to come back up here and apply tension so I can lift the top off. So I've just been scraping away at all these leftover metal shavings and whatever from the years. But now I don't know, it looks like a 3/4 inch head. So I used a 3/4 inch head as my first try with one of the low profile wrenches to get at that. All right, so was 3/4, and you do actually have just enough to get a regular wrench in there. I found it was too difficult with the low profile, it kept slipping off, but this worked. So that should be enough to pull out those keys. All right, on further inspection here, this isn't two keys, it's one key. And so that has so that means that there's only one way to get this out. Now that that's loosened, it has to be knocked about an inch to the right so that it clears the key way for the bolt that it's sitting in, clears. And then I think it should be able to rotate out somehow. Probably needs to rotate out towards that angled section here. So a little bit of a complication, but yeah, so that's what we're gonna have to do. We have to knock it over by about an inch or so for that to actually move and get rid of the bolt's path, because the bolt is what's holding that key or preventing the bolt or that key from moving. Okay, upon closer inspection with the dental pick to clear off everything, we can see just how many shims are underneath that. I might be able to remove some of those shims if they're just straight now with the dental pick by pulling on them, and that might assist the overall removal of this. But if you, this doesn't seem factory to me. Maybe it is. Obviously it works, but yeah. All right, to my surprise, the shims are also cut the same way. Maybe they are factory, I don't know. But I was able to remove them by pushing them out this way. I still don't think this is going to be enough clearance, but it needs to come out. All right, there are those shims, and yeah, that's definitely not factory. That's on the fly replacement for sure. I wonder what that actually looks like. So just by using the dead blow on the casting, that does move the whole shaft, which is a positive thing. I don't know if I have enough space, it'll be close, to be able to remove that. You see about an inch or so, maybe 3/4 of an inch left on that shaft before it hits the keyway, relative to this, which is keeping it supported on the casting. It'll be real close. But the whole thing is moving, which means this is the only possible way to actually remove that that key. It might be a bit hard to see here, but we're getting pretty close. I might be able to sneak it past the bolt's diameter of the actual threaded section now. I don't think so. I think I'm going to need a little bit more work, but see if we can do it. I have about 2 centimeters or 1.5 centimeters left of support on this side, on the table, so certainly don't want to remove that. Okay, so I figured out what this was after realizing I was probably smashing this into the casing too, which is why I went gentle. This is a neat idea to brush off the metal filings. Someone added this after the fact with a metal pad just to sort of sweep the saw. That's pretty cool. So here's that interesting new part, but the bolt is all rounded, so we'll fix that later. Might be worthwhile keeping it. And now we should be able to knock that out. Okay, so more of the clearance issues. I'm going to need to take these off before I move forward, because we're making contact here now. Okay, there's one side off. All right, and there's the other. All right, now we're all the way over. Might be able to pull it up now. So I was wrong earlier. The only way you can put this in is actually from the backside. You can't slide down. And so the longest piece remains to facing the rear of the saw. All right, with much finagling, Finally got the piece. So, longest way towards the rear. Alright, turn that back down, reposition the shaft, let some more penetrating oil get there, and now it's getting too hot, so time off. Alright, boyos of the shop talk. I have to put casters on these because I can't move it around otherwise. And in order to do that, I have to disassemble it because it's like 1,000 pounds. So that's what I've been picking away at. Now I got to get the manual forklift out so that I can put pressure underneath here and lift it up. So off camera, I did this as I'm battling the cinch bug infestation. Needed that up and out of the way so I can lift from under here with the manual forklift, which will be sweet to use, and that should give me enough. And that should give me just enough pressure to hold it from the inside of that. So, time to lift it up. All right, and with that in place, we now are able to have some tension on that, and so when I go and try to extract the pin here, it'll be able to handle the weight. So tomorrow what I think we'll do is go ahead and take as much counterweight off of this end as we can so that when we do punch the pin, it doesn't tip. We'll take the spring off, we'll pull the cone pulley off. Not sure what else we'll do from this angle here, since that fastening assembly will be done from the inside. But yeah, so tomorrow morning, come back and hit that. Okay, so I'm going to use the same technique that I did for the Progress, which is use some of this old thick copper bus bar off of large circuit breakers, or just breakers. So they're made of copper, so they're nice and malleable. Put them around the whole hooky here, and then we're going to try to use the slide hammer to extract that. Now that there's pressure on here, I do have a brass punch that I'm going to sort of percussively work on, both sides of this. But I think the other thing that I need to do is handle the space in between here. If I'm going to go from one side by putting a piece of wood in there so it prevents it from sliding too much over. And then most of the energy should go into the rod rather than into the rod and the casing. So I'm just going to tighten this up first, and then I'll attach the slide hammer and give it a go. Okay, we've got the braces lined up, sort of. So I guess now I just grab a stick of juicy fruit. If you're old enough to get that, then hello. Okay, I gave it a go for a bit. Obviously I need to clean it more or something. No motion, not entirely unexpected there. So I'll get into more cleaning and then we'll see what we can do. Even that little bit of rust is enough to cause serious problems when you're trying to extract something. So might need to use heat, might need to use rust remover. I'll go with the friction first and then rust remover. Last resort will be heat. Okay, I'm going to try to get this on a little bit more of an angle, which is what I've done here with the forklift, to try to make sure the penetrating oil can actually sit in the cavity. So I think it was all basically draining out before, or at least not penetrating. This is starting to bring me vibes of having to extract that spindle, so I want to do it smarter this time. And we have metal thickness differences, obviously, between the outside of this and there, so we don't want to go crack anything. So, I think it's just going to be spray it and work it in, spray it and work it in, and maybe this takes a lot longer than I thought. So, we'll see in how many weeks I return to finish the rest of the video. Okay, I think I need to study this more. If you look really closely, you can see that there's almost like a journal marking on this side. And the same is true here. And it begs the question of how did it get in, since this is a solid cast. So maybe those are just marks of where it should end up once it's screwed in. And I think about this more. Okay, I got it moving, but it confirmed my fear. And that fear was that it is actually a shoulder, which means this whole process is moot. And to get these sides off, you actually just have to totally disassemble each side. So hopefully I didn't twist anything, but it seems like I probably did, or something to, you know, get that much space down there. Anyway, so I'm pretty sure that's what I need to do actually, is just like take one side off now and take another side off. So again, the smarter person would have measured that and then measured the inside, but that smarter person wasn't here. So anyway, yeah, we got to take both sides of this off. So if you have a Model J, don't do the procedure for the Model B, which would be to knock that out. So now I'm going to go in. I got some oil on the camera, but there are fasteners that are holding this together up here. So I'm going to go through and take them all out. All right, there's the first one. It's a 3/4 inch. So same jobby across, same jobby across. Okay, so this end's detached. Now I have to worry about where the center of mass is going to be for the piece that I remove, which will be closer to that end, but I think we're okay because we got the pin there. So the final part that I have to remove is that one here, and then I should be able, now that I've expanded that bore, to slide it off. All right, there's the last bolt, and because we have the mass supported by the forklift, we're okay. Now for some percussive maintenance with the dead blow. Can't film that easily. Maybe we can just pry it with the 2x4 off against the casing. I've done that before. Works pretty well. No, just moving the whole thing. So I've got to put something on this side to prevent it from doing that, but maybe I'll just put the 2x4 here and then smack it. Actually, come to think of it, I might still be able to use the air hammer to sort of push the whole assembly this way until so it doesn't drop off the forks. That would be real shit, but put this back here and try to drive the pin through, relatively speaking. Okay, we're back here. Another way I could approach this is with like a hydraulic spreader and just push it off now, but I don't have one. I sold it. So I'm still just going to do the old wedge route, I think. Mechanical advantage seems to work very well. So we're starting to get that gap form again because this is steel, so it's flexible, which is nice. I think. I mean, I bent it back. So anyway, I'll just keep doing that and trying to wedge it off. And hopefully that will pop off. Okay, we're getting super close now. This side should have a pretty equal center of mass, so I'm just high pucker factoring everything else to assume that it will be okay. But we'll see. Okay. That method worked just fine. All right, so now I gotta haul that off and haul the rest of this stuff off. That cover alone is like the weight of one of those Princess Auto or American Harbor Freight versions. Like, goddamn. All right, here we are. So I'm debating whether or not I just remove the assemblies first. I think I probably should. The plan is to do it anyway. So remove the assemblies while it's being supported with the forklift, and then pull it out so that I don't mess up anything while trying to extract the other side by myself. So the same process here, remove those 3/4 inch. I'm gonna do this side first and do that side next. For this bottom one here, we might actually be able to get away with
doing an extension here once it's snapped. I don't know if I'll be able to get away with that side, but I should be able to. And then maybe one of those bendy-ish ones for here to speed up the process, but I'll give this a go. I know this one's gonna work just fine. Okay, so this one over here had a blade guard, so that's facing the front and the back next to the J. Have the J2. All right, and so here's the extension that I'm doing here. I've got one of those bendy pieces there all the way back, and so this should give me this should work. The other ones did work. There was clearance, so this should be just fine. Okay, and there we go. There's the front half of that wheel assembly off. So I'll put that in the parts bin and we'll get to the other side. Okay, got that off. One of the reasons why I didn't take this assembly off, which would have made it easier, is because I wanted to measure what they were using here as a balancing and sort of an alignment, because that's what these are for. Anyway, now it's smashy this sidey. Whew, sweating. Okay, now we're getting that gap on this side, so using the air hammer to assist it. This seems to be working. All right. Okay, and the last step here. All right. Okay, that's where I'm stopping for a while, or at least until the next video. Actually, I lied. We're gonna do the rest of this stuff now. So I can flip it upside down and actually drill the wheels on the base. So, more to come. All right, so this is the next phase. I'm gonna take all the stuff on the top here off. Or at least I think I am. I probably will. And slowly remove the nuts and the lead screw and all that sort of stuff. And then we'll start more of the cleanup process. Yeah, just to do a good job, I'll take everything off. Okay, now that we know that this is connected on that lead screw, my assumption is that we'll have to back it all the way out, either this hole or into that hole to get it up and out. Because it's threaded. It might be, you might have like a half nut situation underneath it. So I'll have to go underneath and take a look. But I'll do everything I can from the top first before crawling under. That looks like it was custom. Not sure what for, but interesting. So this went through there, wasn't threaded at all. I'm not sure. Maybe that was previously for a pump line or something. I honestly have no idea what that was for. We'll have to think about that later. All right, with all those out on mine, those are 3/4. So that's a pretty simple lift off. Now, I need to inspect how this goes underneath. It may not simply lift off. I see the threaded section. Maybe it's just this and this that holds that in. Take that off first. Okay, so those two seem to have been what was actually holding the weight on there for that lead screw. So I'll pop that off and we should be able to slide the lead screw out.
He almost jumped as far as I can. He almost jumped as far as that.
Coming! Okay, got the hand wheel off, but this is connected to the locking stuff underneath.
The cricket
so
might
more work there. I don't think crickets think the same way we do, Taz. All right, as with everything on this so far, it's a 3/4 inch. And I'll need the extension for that. But I'm gonna get the table off now. And this is a drop in. So both those stay with the frame, but we got that out now, so that's good. Put that back in. Okay. Now, lead screw. Oh, okay, I can just do that. Right, of course I can, but I can't pull this off. Okay, before I continue on the lead screw, I'm going to get going on the removal of the hydraulic piston and try to get as much of the chips off there just to make it less of a hassle to clean up afterward. So no need in really filming much of that. I'll get back on the camera here once I'm ready to flip it. So to access this, which is the spring connection, there was quite a bit of that like body filler put around the bolt on both sides. You can see the bottom one there is pretty soft around it, so I couldn't quite get an actual edge here. So with the blade and the dentist pick, just going around and cutting out the shape that I know the bolt should be in, and we're getting there. But I need to be able to get this off so I can pivot it up properly the way I want to be able to access it. All right, and with that was surprisingly easy. So that's good. It doesn't look snapped or anything. So I'll just repeat the same process, cutting around the bolt down here to actually get to the head of the bolt. Now the best part of doing these kind of restores is when a nut like this just randomly falls off from somewhere and then rolls out. So feed yourself. Don't know where that came from, but we'll put it in. It's original because it's made well. So we have it suspended and supported. And I'm going to take off that pump assembly here. And I think I will go ahead and actually remove the legs so I can clean it up properly and really properly work on this, because I really like this saw. I think it's sweet. That could be a fatal mistake, so to speak, but hopefully not. Anyway, so those haven't been moved probably ever, so I'm going to hit them with some penetrating oil, let them soak for a little bit while I work on the pump. I have, on my assembly, I have this little set screw there, so I can take that off, and then I should be able to remove the plumbing and then an access port to get to that fastener on the other side. I didn't notice this till now, but this is actually an Allen key here, so this comes out, and that will make it a lot easier for me to just pull that off, which then the set or the lead screw can go out now. I wasn't sure how we were going to get to that, but you can see it. You can see it right here. So this is an Allen key, and it should just thread out. All right, so nicely machined part there. So we have that section out, and up comes the Allen key next, or Allen key. Out comes the lead screw. All right, so nicely machined part there. So we have that section out, and up comes the Allen key next, or Allen key. Out comes the lead screw. Okay, and that's out. So that's great. The lead screw looks okay. We'll do a closer inspection and everything once I have time, but clean up for sure. And yeah, so now what? Where to follow? Okay, then for this, we've got two 9/16 bolts that's got to come out, and then I'll remove that whole assembly. You don't really want to take apart the plumbing for the hydraulic parts, or components rather. So yeah, two 9/16. If you have that, I'm going to take off that. And I think I am going to go down to every single little part here. It'll just make it easier for my shop and all the space to be able to go on it. So I'm going to take the top leg off after this. So under here, once again, we have 3/4 inch holding everything on. Same thing goes down here. So I'm going to break them first with the wrench and then pull them off with the impact. Up here, the top, or that single leg point, those are actually 7/8 nuts, not 3/4. Bottom's 3/4 though. With the long attachment, that was quite easy to move by hand, so that's good. So now that that's out of there, I'll just yoinky doinky. Okay, there we go. So that worked out just fine. Now we'll pop this off while we're up here. And
there's the other side and underside. I have no idea what that was for. Maybe an old on-off, probably, actually. Not sure we need that at all. Anyway, so that side's done, good. Now figure out how to do the bottom here without it falling too much. So I'll just go underneath and support the other end and pop off the legs. With that upside down, we should be good to go. Now, these look still larger than 3/4, but my 3/4 fit over one of them. So it's possible that there's two sizes here. Yeah, so these two here are the 7/8 and that's the 3/4. All right, free. It's neat to find what repairs were done previously. You can see this, we had thread inserts here. So they did something at some point, or whoever had this before me. And the thread insert there. And one there. So, don't know why that is, but maybe we'll figure it out once this gets fully cleaned. Legs are off now, so we'll start there. Or I'll start somewhere and start to pick away at it. So if you got this far, thanks a lot for watching. And myself in the future, try to figure out what that's for.